Can't stand to drive on that road because it's in bad shape. It's in horrible need of repair. And every time that I try to get a hold of somebody at the Department of Transportation, you know, they say they're not gonna fix it till the traffic is done. That's the kind of response that I get. So, you know, if you're gonna have excess amount of trucks travel on an already bad road, something needs to be addressed there as well.
Let me real quick, following up on Mr. Younker's comments, I do want to note that the Planning Commission and Mr. Orden, the chairman, is here. Although we don't have their minutes yet, they did approve it, recommend approval, but subject to the same usual stringent conditions that would include the traffic controls, staggering, staging, even using the kind of blackouts we used if it's necessary during critical school hours, etc. Adding to that proper police, etc., escorts and whatnot that you can anticipate would be included. And any other comments the applicant wishes to make in response to the comments about the conditions of the road that you could address either intersectionally, combination of manpower or physical things now or subsequently.
Right. We do have a road department. We do have a road crew that had been out there before. We do have to coordinate with PennDOT for anything at that intersection. I mean, they are the masters of that area. And with respect to the same comments about potholes, the same. I mean, we drove that way. Some of us coming to the meeting or so we've seen it. I can only say that yes, you do get a typical response of PennDOT, and we'll get to it when we get to it, but when you do have evidence of additional use because of approvals or land uses or otherwise, that can often get their attention more. We're happy that we work closely with them. We need to bond their roads when we have a weight restriction. We have a rapport with them. We can certainly bring this concern to their attention as part of this. Unfortunately, we can't commit that they will fix those potholes either as a condition or otherwise, but we certainly heard the issue.
And Mr. Baker, without the exclusion of any other additional comments you wish to make, I think you wanted to kind of ask some questions or give testimony about this specific issue, if you might, at this time.
As far as the staggering goes, after the school buses, the 10 trucks is not accurate. I spent about 16 hours a day on that farm. I've counted 30 to 40 trucks in a row. They're lined up all the way up to the top of Fort Cherry Hill where they're trying to turn in, and all the way down around the bend. I can't see much past Solansky's farm. So the staggering is not 10 trucks. It's not 3 trucks. It's 30 or 40 at a time. And if you mention a police presence, as I understand it, 600 trucks a day, 24 hours a day, you're going to have a cop there 24 hours a day. I mean, that seems unrealistic.
Mark, they do that in Smith Township right now. They do hire the
24 hours a day.
Smith Township police are doing it 3 times a day.
And they would be
4
reimbursed
hours.
for that. Sorry about
So
that.
they would be at the intersection, or they would be at my farm, right at the intersection, which I cross that road 100 times a day with equipment. The farm was there for 100 some years. It's a hazard. When I go to cross the road, the trucks might let me go, but you gotta look around the corner because there's a car coming. And I have employees. I have 4 apartments on that farm, so I have 4 tenants. The one isn't rented yet. And I have 29 people that board horses there, 29 horses. So it is quite a hazard on that road, when we have a lot better option.
We've spoken with our,
I'm sorry, I can't remember your
sorry,
name.
Leah Valente, our safety team. We're happy to put extra police presence out at the intersection or at your farm, if that's what you would like. I think Jordan can start.
Jordan Rehart.
Yes, that's something we routinely do in other townships. We're willing to foot the bill to have that police presence at your farm 24/7 for the life of those operations. As I stated before, that's something we do commonly. We're willing to do again.
And on the applicant, again, in addition to supplementing the police duty, you also have the ability to hire private traffic control facilities that could augment them, and you can work with the township police department to effectuate a plan in that regard.
Yes,
George,
we can.
could you get with the police chief and discuss what you need from him?
We could certainly do that,
I
yes.
believe he's out here, I don't know if he's still here or not.
Yeah, and we would, if it was approved with you dictating that condition, require that to happen, and then it plan to be to the satisfaction of the chief.
Yeah, I don't wanna speak on about his scheduling, his manpower right now.
It would be between, if it's approved.
Yeah,
With
that
those
would be between
conditions,
now,
then,
so,
yeah,
right.
well, before they commence operations. I want to make a point to follow up on Mr. Baker's question and the applicant's answer regarding staging. We talked about staggering, in addition to staggering, I think the planning commission spoke in terms of staging and escorts along the route. Staging is the concept of kind of at both ends. So you're not stacking at the Baker end, so to speak, that you can also use timing and sequencing so you don't cause that. That's correct, if that's something you can do, so that you don't end up with the 20-car stacks in the congestion at the point.
Yes, that's something we routinely do in all of our operations. We'll stage or gather trucks off-site and release them strategically to enter a site such as Yonker so that they don't stack on themselves.
You said you would be using this site maybe twice a year?
Yeah, our first planned use, if we gain approval, would be September of '25, and then our next planned use isn't until '27, as our schedule sits today.
And just remind me again, if you didn't already say it, I think you did, how long does that operation typically last?
They do vary from job to job, typically anywhere from 30 to 45, sometimes 60 days, depending on the design of that well site.
I don't know if I can make a comment. John Baker, 9 Walnut Road.
Sure, you can ask questions to it.
That's 4 months a year. The people that live on Fort Cherry Road or around there, or is my brother Mark, he has a business there, so it's not just a nuisance. It's his actual livelihood and business. So take that into account when the board decides what they want to do.
Where are these wells going to be fracked? I believe it's Cecil Township, and we're Mount Pleasant Township taxpayers. We're not, you don't get any tax money from Cecil.
We discussed this with the planning commission as well. There was a question of where, the water could be used. We talked about essentially a 5-mile radius, because at that point we can have another location, otherwise. We do have, active sites in Cecil Township, right next door. This is common, in terms of having a water source that's used, not just in the township.
Excuse me, can I have a question?
State your name.
Oh,
please.
Cindy Baker.
Oh, certainly.
Is there a water storage spot in Cecil Township?
Right now, we do not have any water storage in Cecil Township.
Because they don't want it.
But you have another.
Well, you already have one here, you already have another one approved, right? In Mount Pleasant? You
Down
have
on
the
Route
second
50?
one?
Is the tank bed down on Route 50?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
I don't know the name.
Stewart.
I believe it was the Nancy Stewart pad.
Oh.
Isn't there a tank pad down there approved?
We don't have any tank pads at the Nancy Stewart location, no.
None down by Route 50, going towards the bottom.
We have a tank pad in Smith Township on Route 50 approaching Ferguson.
Route 18.
I got this. Dan France from Teresa. So I'm not familiar with all this, but what's causing you guys not to? You can't pump the water to Cecil? I mean, there's a pipe that runs past Council Lansky's property past mine, and then another pipe that runs over. What prevents you from that? Is it Cecil Township preventing you from doing that?
No, we do have a water line right now that runs to the Yonker site, and then we plan to haul the water into the Yonker if we have approval, and then pump it into Cecil Township.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Centralize the water and then pump it to the completion phase.
So you can't pump it, just pump it all the way through. Too long.
It's very long, and there is unfortunately a trucking component to our operations where we need a site that we can haul the water and deliver it to a place where it can be pumped.
Another question. Is there, the pipe that goes up to the Cowden well pad, I'm sorry, Cindy Baker, the pipeline that goes past his house he referred to, goes up to the Cowden well pad. Why couldn't you put the unit up there and keep it off of Township Road? And it has,
That's in my presentation. I'll
Yeah.
show you it.
We did see
I
that.
have some comments on that too.
We read that in your letter. The Cowden site was a former well pad that has since been reclaimed. As it stands, it would take significant capital investment to create the space there required to handle our operation, and it would also, the way it exists today, would pose as a large safety concern for us.
Okay, as far as significant capital investment, I'm a full-time farmer, I'm self-employed. If I make a bad plan, whether it's a building, a fence, a track or anything, I have to fix it. I believe range made a bad plan, because if you pulled into the Cowden well site, there would be no traffic issues. Your public relations is going downhill because of the traffic there. If you could pull into the Cowden well site, those trucks could line all the way down the road. As far as the capital investment, I don't feel sorry for range for that. You made your mistake the first time, and now we're paying for it. And it should be corrected for safety. You have a township road with a four-way intersection that's half the size of the Cowden well pad. How does that look for the public? How does that look if there's ever an accident? How does that look for public relations when there's so much traffic? It's ridiculous. Now, you say you only go, you have a blackout when there's school buses. But after school, that road is very busy with sporting events, practices, all that kind of stuff. You have Upper Southview, Lower Southview, you have Hornhead Road, Casey Road, Pleasant Road, and a direct route to Route 50. From there to Route 50 is only 3 miles. I think you really need a traffic counter on that road, and you'll put it in the summer when there isn't quite as much traffic from the school. There's a lot of traffic on that road. I live there. And a lot of residents here travel it a lot, and I mean, I think you should have done that study ahead of time before you made the tank pad at the Yonkers site and been a little more common sense and logical. And as far as the capital investment, it's relative. When I make a mistake, I pay for it. When you make a mistake, you should pay for it. And you made a mistake, but whoever the engineer was must have been at the desk at South Point and not come out and look at the place.
I have something on that. Amanda Keene, KEANE, 310 Fort Cherry Road. As in regards to an alternate location, why not at the new pad that you're gonna put in up at the golf course? You have a 20-acre pad up there, there's already a pad put in for the tanks, and that place is a business, or used to be one, so.
Plenty of staging area.
You pump water anyway.
Yeah.
You're pumping no matter what.
And I don't think Ms. Keene identified herself as part of party status, but we're happy to address it, because that same question came up in front of the
Sure,
Planning
please.
Commission, the Hickory Partners site. It is possible, however, Yonker has been constructed, has been used, is there. The fact that there might be other options elsewhere, in any township, doesn't, change the fact that the applications for this site under this terms of the ordinance, and yes, we're happy to talk about conditions that can go over and above what's in the ordinance, and we are still considering those other locations. I mean, nothing is over and done with, where water demands are fluid, but they, as of right now, the identified location that has been used before is the Yonker well pad to be used as a tank pad.
Excuse me, Keene, 310 Fort Cherry Road, you've already established and built a new tank pad at that location.
What we do not have that
The golf course?
Yes.
What we do not have that location is a permitted facility to use it as a water transfer station, something that we do have at Yonker.
But you could apply for
You
one.
get a permit?
We could.
And that would alleviate all the issues we're dealing with here tonight.
Probably
All
leave
of
it, probably leave it somewhere
Yeah,
else.
what's the larger capital investment? The one that's already there, or move it somewhere else?
I can't really hear you.
Sorry, yeah.
This is probably a smaller capital investment to go.
Hold on,
No,
hold on.
This is not general comment.
We can't have general comments.
No, you're okay.
You can speak, but you have to speak in turn, so the recorder can get your comments.
I was just commenting that it's probably a lesser capital investment, obviously, to go with something that's already built, even if you have to apply for another permit.
Two questions and follow up to Mr. Baker's questions about the site and the issue. You mentioned the other site, the Collins site was decommissioned, plus you mentioned, in addition to capital investment, which has been responded to and addressed, you mentioned safety issues there. What are those?
As the site exists today, the space isn't there, which would require the investment to make it a safe, workable space.
And on a golf course property?
It is, I believe, adjacent to the golf course property.
No, I mean, that's a different property.
Yes.
What are the challenges to install a site at that facility?
Correct.
No, I'm asking.
Well, could you restate the question then?
Yeah, there was questions asked about, hey, what would it take to put, and you partially addressed that. Could you kind of flesh that out a little bit? What it would require you folks procedurally, et cetera, to get, if you were to try to get approved at, for instance, the former golf course?
Sure, it would require additional permitting, as I mentioned earlier. And as I understand, you can chime in, Pat, if that helps, that property is currently for sale or is being sold. And through the process of that land swap sale, we would have to get consent from the future buyers, owners of that property, in order to even apply for the permit. As it stands today, we don't even know who those buyers are. And until such time that we have that information, we couldn't apply for a permit.
Do you not have a lease agreement already on that facility, on that property, to construct and operate a future well pad?
On the
On the
golf
former
course?
golf course, I'm asking the applicant, yes.
No, we don't.
We have a temporary staging location there, not a well site.
You build a tank pad.
Did you anticipate
Correct. Yeah, the
filing an
tank pad,
application for a well
Pat
pad on
Burt's
that site?
The tank pad is part of the well pad on the golf course. In the same LOD. That was designed to facilitate that well site.
Understood, but you can extend it.
So it exists.
We can, and we might.
In addition.
Do you presently have, or do you plan to anticipate an application for approval of a well pad at the former golf site location?
Yeah, we haven't built the well site yet.
I understand that. Do you presently have plans that you're working on to file an application for approval of a future well pad at that location?
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot about the Yonker site, the history, everything there. I mean, for other plans in the future, we're certainly aware of the desire to have a location there. We'll certainly consider it, but, you know, the application here is for the Yonker.
Just to add something too, to help, what Jordan already said was, the Yonker site is connected to our higher river system, water system. So that gives us the ability to get the water there, fresh water also.
Understood.
If we needed to go to the golf course, that would take probably another year of planning just to get water. Second of all, on Fort Cherry Road, if we didn't have that, a higher river system, that would probably double the amount of trucks on Route 50.
In your paperwork here, it says you'll be bringing.
On State Road.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, Bruce.
What if you go down to the Carnes tank pad and add another line there over?
Mr. Calvin, we can't hear your comments, and you gotta state your name for the record. It's very hard for the court reporter to hear what's being said. So please, before anyone speaks, just say your name again, and let's just take our turn.
And as far as general comment, we're gonna allow general comment at the end, as well. Does the applicant have any more presentation?
No, I mean,
on it?
it sounded like we were in general comment. I mean, we were happy to hear and listen, but in terms of direct questions and back and forth, we've limited that to the
Sure,
board.
no, I appreciate
and
that.
Merrick.
I'm asking if you have any more to present regarding your application.
No, we have already moved our exhibits and we rest on.
I got one
Yeah,
question.
please.
Yes.
This truck traffic, it only comes from Fort Cherry Road onto Baker to the well site. And any trucks leaving go back to Fort Cherry. Nothing goes towards Southview, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's incorrect. I videotape trucks going past the high school, so.
Excuse me, there'll be
All
comment
right.
opportunity. Does any other board members have questions of the applicant?
Now, you addressed the road concerns of,
Yeah. Mrs. Baker?
Yeah, Cindy Baker, I think what he was trying to say, the trucks come from Fort Cherry, from the highway, 576, and they're coming from Route 50. They're coming both directions onto Baker Road, and then back and back on Baker Road.
Most of them come from Hickory and,
Would you like to speak to that?
Well,
Mr.
Correct,
Weber?
we
No,
don't
that's
dispute
true. I
that.
just wanted to make sure trucks weren't coming out of the well pad, turning left and going to south. That's
Correct.
what my question.
That was our understanding, and that's our testimony.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir?
Paul Solansky, Baker Road. I just wanted to ask this gentleman here, what's your name again?
Jordan?
I've been on the pad up there. I didn't see any catch areas. But if you put, what did you say, 375 foot round tank up there, or oval tank? There's a place that catch that much water? Where would that be? I'll tell you how I got up there. That's Stacy Cow. I was looking for it. So I know, generally it's up there. It's just like level. So if that tank leaked, where's it gonna go?
Well, as stated earlier in the meeting, those tanks are placed on top 60 millimeter polyethylene containment. And now mind you, these vertical tanks are only 9 feet wide by 13 feet long. They're not giant tanks, and they're
Okay.
25 feet tall, so you could fit
The specs-
plenty of them there.
The specs that I'm talking about, somebody said, there was gonna be a big general tank up there, and I thought I heard 375 feet of area that was gonna cover, and you statement.
Also, I think the other thing was, the tanks aren't up there permanently, so it
Oh,
could have
I
been up.
understand.
Okay.
What is the size of the area then we're gonna cover with 8 tanks or several tanks?
But I have the,
Could the applicant kind of give a
Yep.
summary of the,
okay.
I kind of call them corner tanks, you rent them, bring them in and
Yep.
remove them. In any given operation, on average, what are the number of tanks that are brought to the site?
So I think what you're referring to, the existing well pad, so the existing pad is 435 feet by 325 feet.
Okay.
So that's the gravel layout where the pad is. And then previously at the site, we've had 20 vertical closed top tanks placed inside line containment ring system.
Are you trying to say that there is some kind of containment process or layers or something that's gonna catch water under these tanks if they leak? Or something goes radically wrong?
That's correct. The
So it's
containment,
like a sponge under there, you think?
it's a plastic liner that catches and holds.
Okay, so
water.
the liner is in the shape of a pond, and then it was all filled in with gravel and so forth, or what are you trying to say?
No, the tanks, when we construct the site, the tanks are set on top of a 60 millimeter plastic liner with a ring system around the outside. In the event of a tank leak, that fluid is captured on top of that containment and evacuated with a water truck. Our goal is to not let that fluid touch the gravel pad.
I have a
And-
lot
and
of
if it-
goals and
if it
requirements
does,
things
doesn't
here
the
too, but I
DEP
don't always
problem?
achieve them. I'm just wanting to know, what is gonna happen if something can go wrong, because I'm right next door. This water gets away somehow, what can I expect?
well, I think Mr. Slansky,
You're
he
gonna
kind of
put some
explained
kind
that,
of-
sir. With the containment pad will catch any such leak.
Okay, say you put a plastic liner down on the ground, and then you lift the sides up. And it's gotta be held by something, the sides have to be held by something to catch this water in case something happens. Are you saying that that's, whatever's on the sides is gonna be able to take that pressure?
Yes, we use jersey barriers that we drape the containment over that act as breast or ring system to hold that water back.
And as far as these trucks go, you can talk, Bruce could probably tell you the same thing. It depended what crew you had. I'll tell you, I stand there feeding cows along the road one day and they're throwing jakes on like jake brakes.
I heard of it in the middle of the night. Rosemary Solansky, 104 Baker Road. Middle of the night, jake brakes in front of my house, waking me up. They're letting the air out.
They're, well, that's another thing.
Yeah.
When they make a turn, they're gonna let air out. That's the axle pick up, which is annoying, but you have to live with it. But, I drove trucks with one. It depended on what crew you had coming through there. I could be standing right at the edge of the township road, and if you look in your tax records, the farmers used to own to the center of the road. And Mark's and Bruce's, everybody's corner peg, there's an iron peg right at the corner of your property in the center of that road. So I'm just getting at, I'm allowed to stand at the edge of the road. And these guys need to be a little bit more thoughtful when they're coming down. For some reason, they'll come around that bend, and the cars do the same thing. So they come around that bend, right, Mark? And what's the first thing they do? They hammer down because there's a straightaway right in front of our house. And then the trucks realizing, I guess, they can't follow the first truck and realize they're coming to the entrance to the pad. So they gotta throw on the jake brake real quick and slow down. There's some issues here that need to be dealt with on these trucks, and hopefully that confinement question answered. I hope it's enough.
Are those concerns something that can be addressed with on the education and training and pre-operations with your truckers, all truckers that are involved?
Yes.
On a constant basis? In terms of the follow-up on his questions about the liners, you said the tanks themselves are double lined, and they meet DEP requirements?
Yeah, we built it to meet all DEP requirements.
Have you ever had a tank failure?
No.
That
Not to my knowledge.
you know? Okay. So you have never had a tank failure that's been failed. You never had an occasion to where the surrounding perimeter that you described, the line perimeter, ever experienced a failure?
No, sir.
Or even a necessity of use for a tank failure?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
George, I seen you had your hand up, Eric.
Yeah, George Kaspersky, 321 Fort Cherry Road. If I check this whole situation out, you guys are representing us. Am I correct in that statement? The taxpayers, okay? What I see here is, I have a two-part question here. What does our township get from this site, from them bringing in water from Cecil Township, from I don't know where, but outside of our township? What do we get as a township for that use in our township? I'm just asking a question, and I have another question after that.
That's I guess that's kind of a rhetorical question in terms of this. This is not about whether we want the ordinance to allow this use with these conditional uses or not. The ordinance as it exists right now, and some of the surrounding communities as well, have an ordinance that allows you to put a tank facility at these locations. So we're kind of not a popularity or whether we like it or not. We have to deal with the ordinance as it exists. Pros can recommend and one can make changes on ordinances that would impact future applications. But the present application, we have to take in the context of the ordinance as it exists.
Okay, but my question was, what do we get in our township from range and all this production and whatever's going on here? Maybe production wasn't the correct word, but what do we get for our township for this burden?
As a whole, there's impact fees that come back to the township for some of the, the inconveniences that the residents have to put up with. So that, in sense, keeps your taxes a little lower because we wouldn't necessarily be able to maintain the roads in the condition that we maintain them. We wouldn't be able to support the police and the fire department the way that we support them. So, you know, it helps the overall general fund balance for
Do
the
you have any
township.
idea what that number is?
Darla,
Not offhand.
Would the applicant like to speak to that comment at all?
Well, I mean, I guess, point of clarification, are we in public comment, or are we in?
I get it, it's been flown a little bit too much. Before we go to formally, like, general comment, do any of the bakers or anybody else that received the letter that live within a half a mile wish to ask any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Baker?
A small question, I know the impact fees are very good for the township. Cecil gets their impact fees. Our water goes to our headaches go to Cecil, but we don't get Cecil's impact fees to address Mr. Maggie's. But the impact fees are good for the township. I'm not denying that, but not, we don't get Cecil's.
very true.
Shane, I understand your question.
Yeah, well, my question was, Darla, is that Mr. Kazmersky, offhand, do you know maybe what the impact fee for 2024 may have been that we received offhand?
Okay, I'm Darla Protch, I'm the outgoing township manager. I'm actually retired now, but still here helping. We get the money through the state. It doesn't come directly from Range, and last year we got $280,000 from Range. And we used the bulk of that for public safety.
So that answers your question.
Is that for drilling? Or is
No,
that
it's
for
not public,
everything?
please, you're not, you'll have a chance.
It's the Act 13 funds, which is the, I call it the drilling money, but it's what everybody puts in, and then it's distributed to the municipalities that have drilling in their township.
Okay, so you're saying it's $280,000, roughly?
That's what we got last year, yes.
Okay, okay. My second part of my question, okay?
You can make comment, good.
Okay. Since they're applying for an application here, that's what this process is, right? With everybody here, you know, I mean, we're all here for a reason. And you have the pad already created out there, and they're asking for permission to go out on the Fort Cherry Road, on the Baker Road. It's up to you three to say, you know what, this isn't in the general well-being for our community. I think it would be better off out on Route 18, or wait, is that right? Yeah, Route 18. So let's just say to Range, hey, it was really nice, but you know, let's change gears here. Let's switch paths here. I mean, this isn't cut and dry. We can adapt to it.
Thank you. Does anybody else have public comment that they wish to make about the application? And identify, wait, everybody will be given a shot, sir.
Is Dan France, just that 280,000, I mean, I don't know what it'd be nice to know what the percentage of your overall budget is, because I mean, I don't know how much
That's about-
money that is relative to.
That's about 9% of our total budget.
It's a very small amount.
Yes.
Mr. Loft, do you wish to make public comment?
Okay, great. Chris Loft, 317 Fort Cherry Road. So a year ago, I was here discussing a very similar matter with regards to a tank pad that was on that site. I asked why there was a conditional use hearing then, and I think our solicitor's response was, well, we can agree to disagree. What has changed from last year to this year with regards to now we're going through a conditional use hearing for this event?
Do you have any other public comment?
I have tons
It's
of-
not a question and answer. You can make public comment.
Okay. Second public comment is that I did a regular request for the application, and the PPC plan submitted in the application is a draft form. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. So that means they really haven't complied with the requirements for the tank pad application, because they can make changes to it and you won't know it, the public won't know it. So I don't think we should be accepting their application, because that's a pretty important document, their PPC plan. And if it's in a draft form, you don't know who's implementing it, how it's being implemented, how it's gonna be changed when it becomes final. So from that standpoint, I would suggest that you have stand down on any voting or approval on this, this application. Third item is, and I think the comment was back there, and I got some documents. We do have an agreement. Now, to turn the clock back, we had some wastewater impoundments, some freshwater impoundments in the township that ended up with, I think it was 4 notice of violations. There's zoning hearing board hearings that went on for several months, and as a result, the township decided that they were enforcing the notice of violations. As part of the vehicle for settling those, I have the documents here, that we drafted and I believe implemented an agreement for revisions to the water handling in Mount Pleasant Township by Range Resources. So we have a document here, and I'll give you copies, that says that we should be using the Stewart impoundment, or Stewart pad, tank pad, which was previously agreed. And I highlighted it, I think it was on the second page. I'm gonna give you one, sir. You were the one asking about it? The Stewart pad on Route 50.
May I have a question?
Here, please.
And then there was also.
Just for the record, if I might, I won't hold you up.
There was a
Could you
settlement
identify
agreement.
the date of that document, please?
Pardon me?
If, just for the record's purposes, that document is dated November, and this is an unsigned copy.
Well, I get it, but it's-
November 2013.
Exactly. And then here's a copy of the agreement that sort of implements that, or to eliminate the notice of violations, that they were gonna use the Stewart pad. Again, there was applications made that apparently approved. So the question is, why aren't we utilizing the Stewart tank pad, which was agreed upon by Range when they were involved with the notice of violations for the wastewater impoundments, or the impoundments, I'm sorry, there's more than just wastewater.
Yeah, and if I might, just for identification purposes, he's alluding to a document that he's distributed called an agreement of settlement between Mount Pleasant Township and Range Resources Appalachian LLC, dated in or about 2015. Do you have any further comments, sir?
Yes, I do. Next one is residual waste that they'll be transporting into and collecting at this proposed tank pad. It should fall under our solid waste ordinance, which is chapter 168. And let me step you through this document. So if you go through the definitions, which I believe start on page, well, let's go to page 3 or the third page. Solid waste. It says any waste including but not limited to municipal, residual, or hazardous waste including solid, liquid, semi-solid, gases, material. Then you go back and look at the definition of residual waste. It talks about any garbage, refuse discarded, including solid, liquid, semi-solids, resulting from industrial, mining, agricultural operations. It goes on and on and on. But if you look at the last page on that document, and I've highlighted it, that our ordinance state that these activities are limited to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and there is no collection, hauling, transporting of solid waste. Again, solid waste by definition is also residual waste, shall be permitted on Sunday. So we have limitations as far as when this activity, wherever it ends up, can be in our township. So it eliminates the nuisance that I think a lot of people are having with the truck traffic. Maybe it doesn't address the safety issue, but it does with the noise and the sound and the Jake brake and everything. So I think that should be considered. I'd like to also point out that, and I can give you copies if you're interested, that Range received a notice of violation from the PADEP in August of 2024 with the Yonker, again, the Yonker to Corns temporary water line. And what happened, this was in our township, and the notice of violation by the DEP was failure to notify the DEP of an accident or any activity or incident of toxic substance which could endanger the downstream users of water. So they had this water line rupture and didn't report it to anybody. Somebody notified the DEP, they came out. So they're not being transparent when they have their activities where they have problems. Same thing with when they were running the Carter wastewater impoundment. And I want to go address the gentleman's question in the corner. They had, let's see, 20 roll-off dumpsters. They had to come in and excavate soil that was under the transfer of the weir tanks that had this so-called plastic liner. They had to have 20 excavated tanks or roll-off dumpsters to excavate the soil because they leaked at the time of either transferring or whatever, but the liner had holes in it, made its way down into the soil, and then the soil had high conductivity and had to be removed. They sent out letters that said something that we're doing a series of upgrades, but essentially it was a leak, and it did leak through these liners that they used to set this equipment on. So, and I have the, you know what? Let me give it to you. I have the Mount Pleasant police report. In fact, I'll give you those.
And Mr. McDermott, at this time, I'd just like to enter a general objection to Mr. Locke going beyond the bounds of public comment into testimony and attempting to testify as an expert witness and to distribute potential exhibits. I believe that is beyond the scope of a public comment purpose. I'm not permitted to cross-examine individuals who are providing public comment. And I do believe the board should be aware Mr. Locke is engaged in litigation against Range Resources related to his property. It has nothing to do with the offer pad here over a mile away from his house.
And thank you, your objection is noted.
Thank you.
Good.
In response for Mr. Loff, since Mr. Yunker knows that Mr. and Mrs. Loff are represented by me and other counsel, that any attempt to restrict Mr. Loff's public comment should be rejected. Public comment includes whatever the supervisors say public comment includes.
Thank you. Do you have any more public comments, Mr. Loft?
Yes, I do.
Nobody has interfered with this public
If you guys
comment.
everybody can tolerate me, and I apologize for taking everyone's time. So, I guess the last one, this is just as a result of the testimony that was given earlier, is that I heard, I think it's Leah, say that the May 5th Planning Commission reviewed the application. How is it that, is this a procedural issue? How is it the Board of Supervisors voted on May 4th, the day before, to have this hearing? I'm just curious, how does that work if you guys, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. And then I heard Mr. McDermott say that you got verbal approval from the Planning Commission, and under the ordinance, you have to have a written approval from the Planning Commission to move forward on this. So I'm trying to address some of the questions that were brought up by the audience here. So thank you very much.
Does anybody else have public comment they wish to make? Sir, can you identify yourself, please?
Hugh Staub, 101 Walnut Road.
Hugh, what's your last name, please?
Staub, S-T-A-U-B. Just a comment on standing. I believe every taxpayer in this township should have standing, and everyone that sends their kids to that school right up the road, which is within a half mile of that site, should have standing. Moving on from that, you were talking about the liner. You're worried about the liner? Is that the same liner that they used in the Carter impoundment that had hundreds of holes in it when they cleaned it out? Chris just talked about that. They had radioactive material in there that they had to ship out to Utah because that was up there. And that's what we get. I have pictures of the holes in the liner if you'd like to see them. One other thing is, just like George said, you guys approve this. You're approving this. People are up here saying their comments. You're approving it. I know some of you weren't there before, but this goes back a long ways of all the stuff getting approved. So you talked about, the water that they're putting in, the wastewater. You just called it used water. It's not used, it's wastewater, it's residual waste, it's toxic. I lived beside the Carter impoundment for years. I smelled it, I seen it every day. That was like 15 million gallons of crap behind my house. You ever look at some of the Google pictures? It's red, it's disgusting. It was so bad they had to put 3 fences around it to keep birds and animals out of it. This is what we want in this township?
Nope.
Does anybody else wish to make public comment regarding the application? Ma'am?
Yes, Anita Steigerwald, 311 Fort Cherry Road. I live next door to the Carter impoundment. I was sent a notification from Range Resources saying I had been subjected to radioactive material, but it would be no more than was given at my dentist's office. That was a total lie. They weren't truthful about the amount that was there. And I live next door to that, the same impoundment he was just talking about. I believe it's been deemed a brownfield now? Is that correct? I don't know. I think it is correct though, because they had to remediate that soil and couldn't do everything they needed to do there.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make public comment regarding that? Ma'am?
Rosalie Solansky, 104 Baker Road. I live right next to the pad. I was in support of them putting a well in there because I support people's rights to do what they want with their property. That's fine. But now we're talking about expanding it. You're gonna have wastewater, which is gonna cause aromas, it's gonna cause smells, let alone whatever could happen to the liner. There have been spills in Washington County. The Jaeger well, I can't remember the name of the other one, the Brownlee pad. So he has perjured himself. He said there's not been spills in Washington County. There have. And they had to settle them at millions of dollars. So I just want that to be on the record. 2, I live on a farm. I love living on a farm. It's quiet, it's peaceful most of the time. I don't want to live next to a construction site, and that's just my personal opinion. Or a trucking site, where those trucks are in there maybe a third of the year. 4 months, 2 60-day periods, if it goes to the max, is 4 months. It's a third of my year, where I have to fight these trucks to get in and out of my driveway and to back from work on a township road, and it doesn't have to be on a township road.
Sir?
George Kaspersky. The impact fee that we would get is $280, she said last year. Would we still get it if it was up at the golf course? Would we still get roughly the same impact fee?
The impact fees have dropped drastically. This year, we've only budgeted like $230,000 to $230,000. They fluctuate. It just depends on what is going on across the whole state.
Okay, so if we have it at Mark Baker's down there, whatever, Yonkers, or at the old golf course, it would be the same impact fee for the township.
Is that your, yeah, this is comment period, sir.
Yeah.
It's not a question and answer.
Yeah. And one more thing, when will we hear the results of this permit?
We have, the board, as I'll indicate in a couple minutes, the board has 45 days from the time of the close of the hearing to deliberate and issue a decision on the application.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Will we be able to, like, I'll be here again when they get
It'll be issued at a public meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comment, ma'am? If it's not repetitive, please.
It's not repetitive. What we haven't taken into consideration here is what this might do to our children in our school district. Breathing this air, breathing all the truck releases, they are very close to this, very close to this. Their playgrounds are outside. We have a track outside. We haven't even considered what this might do to our children in the future with asthma and things like that. the air
I
quality.
will make a note generally to public that, again, there's the line between the local government, we're allowed to regulate the zoning and the aspects of it. We don't regulate emissions, water, air, that's all DEP and state, we're preemptive, we're not allowed. Ma'am, I think, did you have a comment?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
If you had, I thought you had your hand up. You don't have to have one, if you wish to have one.
Come up with something. Pam Staley, 327 Fort Cherry Road. I was actually gonna say something similar to what Anita said. I don't want it anywhere in our township, but why would we consider doing it so close to the school? That is a major thoroughfare getting to and from that school on Fort Cherry Road. And that tank farm is so close to the elementary school playground. It's disgusting to me to think that we would want to do something like that. So why wouldn't we put it on a more major thoroughfare, if we have to have it, because I don't want it at all in the township, but if we have to have it, put it over by on Route 18. It's nowhere near the school, it's nowhere near our children.
Keith Keen, 310 Fort Cherry Road. Again, with all your truck traffic, do you think you're gonna mitigate the problems by having police at the intersection? What are you gonna do with the railroad tracks? You don't have any jurisdiction there. The train goes and shuffles cars back and forth there. We all live there. We live it. You add that many trucks there. I've seen when them trucks are backed out onto 18 because they can't get done. I mean, backed out on 50 because they can't get down Fort Cherry Road because the trains are there. So you just increase that much more liability on the drivers in our township, having to deal with all that because you're looking to put that down on at the Yonkers path. There's things that you can't control, even with police in that intersection.
Kevin, I seen you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of Kevin Joswiakowski.
You might have to spell that name.
But anyhow, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Mrs. Agarwal and Lily said about the safety of the school. That is a major thoroughfare for our school district. You mentioned about the condition of the road. It's in major need of repair. I've lived here for 25 years off of Fort Cherry Road. That is the worst road in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
It is the worst. It gets the last attention, and our school kids are on that road pretty much every single day. Add the traffic with the trucks, it's just not right to be under consideration. The other thing I want to say is about the permit, right? I don't know if there's an opportunity here, even if we do approve it, which a lot of us here don't want this approved, but even if it is approved, if we put a stipulation in there that these trucks cannot service outside of our township, or within a certain range, mile range. You put a half-mile range on us, why can't we put a restriction on them to say you can only service within a 5-mile radius of where that site is?
You know, that could certainly be a restriction that is
Right.
part of the
That'll help
condition.
mitigate the traffic, if it does go through.
That's a legal issue that we'll
Yeah.
have to take a look at, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I was waiting for him to acknowledge me.
Beg your pardon. Good.
There you go. I agree, Jana Loft, 317 Fort Cherry Road. I support all my neighbors. We've all lived through the Carter impoundment, and you probably hate hearing about Carter, but Range has testified in the township it will be the same water when they wanted the tank pad that was stored in the impoundment would be the same water going into the tank pad. We have had problems, the liners failed. And what Nita started to say is Range has 34 sites listed in the land recycling program. Most of them are for waste handling. 30 of those sites are in Washington County. It's basically all the impoundments and the Carnes B that the Yonker pipeline is connected to is also an environmental cleanup and brownfield site. So I think we need to really start thinking about why we would keep accepting waste from other townships. This is ridiculous. And this is showing Carter Impoundment is an environmental cleanup. And you can see it's for soil and water. Not only is Carter, you have Ron Gula's farm is environmental cleanup, and the Peacock well is also an environmental cleanup. So if we're gonna keep going down this road, we're gonna turn our entire township into a waste dump. just want to say one more thing. I just want to remind you that I have been to numerous hearings here, and when we had special counsel with Chuck Means, he reminded the board that you guys have obligations under the Environmental Rights Amendment to protect air, water, soil, everything for us. And this is not doing it if you approve this.
Sir.
Sean Baker, 9 Walnut Road. I guess I asked the board to obviously consider everybody's comments, but obviously there's been mistakes made in the past with the Carter pad and everything that happened there. So hopefully we learn from our mistakes and don't allow this, because it sounds like it could just be a accident waiting to happen. And when you are up at this, when I'm at my house, which is about the same distance from the school as the Yonker pad, you could hear the kids playing on the playground. So if they're so close they could hear it, if you were on the Yonker pad, you could hear kids outside playing. It doesn't sound like it's a good idea. So I just ask you to take that in consideration, and you know, if it's one thing, if it's one pad in one township that we're trying to fix, but or trying to service to get resources there, but when you're trying to have that pad as a permanent, I call it a permanent place, 4 months out of the year, you're trucking water in and out to other places, other wells, other municipalities, it doesn't really make sense. So I ask the board to take that in consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What, Mr. Baker?
I know I've already spoken to us, but I have some more comments. I was unaware of a couple other options. In my letter, I designated the Cowdenwell site, which I'll briefly say that if anybody hasn't read my letter. The entrance to Baker Road is 59 feet wide at Fort Cherry. When you go 50 feet in, and that's what Range, I believe, has to pave, it's 19.5 feet wide. When I go to the Cowdenwell site, it's 111 feet wide, 90 of which is paved. When you go in 50 feet to the end of their blacktop, it's 37 feet. So within a couple feet, it's twice as big. So therefore, the trucks could just pull right off. You would have way better public relations, because you wouldn't have all these people here. But I was unaware of the golf course and the Stewart pad that exists or doesn't exist. I still haven't got a straight answer on that. And if you have an opportunity to go somewhere else, I think you should, for the safety of our township, for the safety of a four-way intersection. And if we can pump water from the Ohio River, I think we can pump it from the golf course. If it's another permit, we all have to get permits to put a shed or a garage or anything so you can get another permit. That is Range's problem because of what they started in the first place. They should have been a little smarter than this initially. Is there any way to limit how many trucks can go? I underestimated through my farm, because I'm there all day long. I said there's got to be 300 trucks. Well, now I understand there's 640 some trucks that would be allowed per day. So I guess I really underestimated it, because I don't have time to sit out there and count them all.
That's crazy.
The traffic would be lined from the top of the hill going towards Hickory, and car traffic would be over the hill going towards the
I can't
school.
hear you, sir.
I'm sorry. The traffic would be lined up, the trucks would be lined up to the top of the hill going to Hickory, and they did not stagger them. And the car traffic would be lined up on the hill, clear to the top of the hill, which is a shorter hill, going towards Fort Cherry High School. Everybody's backed up. Only a car and truck cannot pass on Baker Road without one of them stopping. It's only 19.5 feet wide at 15 feet. They do pull into my gravel lots there, and I don't mind because I'm easy and I'm not a complainer, but it's really not right. I have a business on that road, it's my livelihood. I have 4 apartments, 3 of them are rented. Those people pay taxes to the township, wage taxes. I have 29 horses boarded on my farm. I have a cattle farm. This is my whole livelihood. And I cross that road all the time. It is a biggest safety issue than you ever thought. I would ask the board to table this motion until they do a traffic study, which has never been done, because I'm there all the time. They ought to do a traffic study on Baker Road and on Fort Cherry Road to satisfy all these people, and I think you might find out that you're gonna get a lot less traffic on 18 than you're gonna get on Fort Cherry and Baker Road because of the school. I already mentioned that they have to stop at the bend down the road there. The dust and dirt on my farm, I just repainted that whole farmhouse, remodeled it so I could rent it out. you couldn't even see out the windows. There's a blue car of one of my tenants parked in the driveway. You didn't know it was blue, it was that bad. So I repainted the whole house. They raised my assessment a lot because I painted the house. Now I have to repaint or wash it or something. So how does that work? Rain said they would pressure wash it, but they never came back around to do it, and I kind of be afraid of them to pressure wash my house.
What kind of water would they use?
Yeah. In your notice in the paper, this is a small item, and it might be me. You have notice 541, and that says it's a wind farm. And we're supposed to be talking about a tank farm here. That was the notice in the paper, which I have right here. That's a small detail. Mount Pleasant Township zoning ordinance 200-541, and on your website, it says that that's a wind farm. 542 is a tank pad. I'm not gonna argue that point, I'm just pointing it out to you because something needs to change or to correct that.
Oh, look at that, sir. Let me comment on it. I printed out and downloaded the ordinance today online. It's 200-541 tank pad.
Correct. Well, on the website, it doesn't say that. It's different on the website.
I had downloaded this from our online ordinances on,
Well,
but we can look at it. Certainly
on
it's
the website
541.
and it says different, but that's a small point. I think you ought to listen to all us taxpayers here. Regarding the impact fee, what George was talking about, we do get the impact fee from the gas that's made in this township. We don't get the impact fee from Cecil Township or any other township that's using our facilities to pump to there. I think that's all. But I think you ought to consider the traffic survey and consider some of these other sites. It would be a lot better for range as public relations. You're gonna make people hate range. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to respond to any of the, ma'am? Any other resident of Mount Pleasant Township may make public comment, or anybody else that the chair wishes to.
She's not a resident, so you're a
That's
resident.
at the chair's discretion.
Real quick, limit your comment.
Can you please identify yourself?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Kathy Lodge, LODG 25799, WINRAD Drive. So I have two more petitions, and can you take this to you? Two more petitions to add to the stack that I already gave you, Shane. And then I will be brief. I did not see the submittals that the township gave as exhibits, but I'm assuming that the advertisement for this hearing was included in those exhibits. And I wanted to just point out that there might be a procedural error. On April 23rd of 2025, I attended the Board of Supervisors meeting where the board voted to advertise for this hearing for May 28th at 6 o'clock. On May 4th, Mount Pleasant Township's first ad for this hearing occurred in the OR. On May 5th, the Planning Commission meeting had on their agenda new business to vote on the Younger Tank Pad. And so tonight, as Mr. McDermott stated, the Planning Commission did not yet provide their written decision to the board prior to this hearing, which perhaps, I'm not an attorney, but I believe it violates ordinance 200-502A2. So I just wanted to put that on the record. I'll also add that this meeting has allowed for range resource employees to be seated and some of the residents in the hall or sitting on the floor. I contacted the township about this meeting and that there may be a large crowd and could we move the venue to allow for a larger crowd, and the township refused. The township also has back-to-back hearings stacked. You have a solar hearing, people probably waiting outside that was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. So maybe this should be tabled or continued so that you can get on with your business that was legally advertised, and perhaps, you know, grant a venue that is larger. And lastly, I want to remind the board that the Act 13 decision gave you the ability, the power to say where activity occurs in the township, not how it occurs, such as limiting the hours of operations. You might run into trouble with that, or that you can't accept waste from a different township. You might run into trouble with things like that, but you can certainly say where. The Act 13 decision lets you say where DEP says how the activity occurs. Please don't forget what was granted to you. And on that, I'll just ask you that you deny the Yonker application. Thank you.
I was going to say, Laurel Zimba, Range Resources, your question about the impact fee is valid. According to the formula that is employed at the state level, adjacent townships do get a portion of impact fees from a host township. So you would get a portion of Cecil would get a portion of Mount Pleasant Township.
We do get a portion of
You
Cecil.
do. If it is a township and adjacent township, you get a portion of those impact fees. You do. I don't know what the formula is, but it is all publicly available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I could just, if we're wrapped up with public comment, jump off of what Ms. Lodge said, the Robinson Township decision. Actually, before that, the Range Resources in Salem Township, as well as Huntley and Huntley versus Borough of Oakmont, said that municipalities do have the power to say where oil and gas activities occur, not how. That's been the consistent both through Robinson Township and why we're here tonight, because the township has said a tank pad is permitted as a conditional use in this zoning district, in this location. So that decision has been made legislatively. I understand the pressure that they want to bring to bear to try and get this moved to the volunteer fire company, to rile up people about old impoundments and old situations, but the question before this board is, does this application meet the terms of the law which are set forth in your ordinance with respect to the information that's been provided? We have provided the application. We've addressed each and every requirement. The comment from Mr. Loff about a draft PPC plan is common. They are always drafts until an approval is given. Then they are finalized and distributed to the township, left on site, and coordinated with the police department. The question of the timing of all this, as we talked about at the beginning, that you had to commence a public hearing within 60 days of receipt of an application. That can't always coincide with a planning commission meeting and review. And so, like all other townships, you took the step of advertising in advance, because you do have to advertise in 2 successive weeks. If there was some issue, this could have been continued or otherwise, but all of this is just chaff that's just thrown out to malign the industry, malign what's going on here in Mount Pleasant Township, the birthplace of the Marcellus shale industry with the Rentswell 20 years ago. We hear the comments. We're happy to talk with Mr. Baker, who's right next door. This is not the last time. Even if he signed that petition for some reason that says he can't talk to Range or whatever it says, we don't know, we haven't seen it. We're happy to continue to have those conversations with him, Mr. Slinsky as well, other people that are in that immediate vicinity, or our neighbors and who we will be dealing with through this. We have proposed some conditions, including the police officer, as well as staggering or staging, things of that nature to address some of these concerns. In other applications, there has been a jake brake concern. We have posted no jake brake signs, and we have enforced that by essentially...
Is this testimony? I'm sorry.
This is my closing argument.
Okay. It sounds like testimony.
Excuse me, please. Okay.
Thanks. So, I appreciate the board's patience. The question of why we came forward with this when we had been doing zoning permits is to put this forward, in front of the board, and so you can impose conditions. Those zoning permits didn't have any conditions on them because they were temporary. They were applied for every year. This process, to hear the concerns of the immediately adjacent neighbors who are impacted by this, are why we have it. We have addressed many of these issues before, back in 2016. I know that the school has always been an issue. It is 3/4 of a mile away from this site. It was not enough to give standing, and there's no one from the school district here to assert anything like that. But we understand people are cared about their kids. They want it to be safe. This is the state-of-the-art technology in terms of managing this, but it is not subject to your solid waste ordinance. It's not residual waste under that. It is in your zoning ordinance. It's permitted as a conditional use in this location, subject to reasonable conditions imposed by this board, and we would ask you to do your due. This is not a popularity contest, this is not a show of hands, this is not how many people can get out to fill a room. At the end of the day, this would be judged by a judge. Did we establish that we meet the terms of the ordinance? And if we did, this isn't asking you to do anything unusual or asking you to go forward and put your neck out. The law compels you to approve this, but place reasonable conditions on the use to minimize the concerns and the comments that have been brought forward to you through this public hearing process. So we thank you for your time tonight, and we look forward to your next action.
Mr. McDermott, may I say this though? Your application was not complete because you did not have the planning commission's written letter. So to say that you have to rush this along, you are not meeting your ordinance. They are not meeting your ordinances. You still have to abide by the Environmental Rights Act amendment. You still have to hold the community's health, safety, and welfare in your hands. And so you have a right to deny it. You don't have to issue this. You can deny this. He loves to say that you have to issue this. That's not true. You can say where this goes. You can give a denial. That's one of the three: permit or permitted use. You can permit with conditions without, or you can deny. And furthermore, you did not have a full application when this was given to you, and you rushed through a planning commission meeting. You didn't rush through it, but you didn't have the written decision. So it wasn't a complete application. There's a procedural error there that you need to consider.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further,
I have
There's questions.
go ahead, okay.
Amanda,
If there's further, I would suggest normally done in public comment. You may wish to continue.
Yeah.
there was still comment.
Yeah.
We rushed.
You can comment, but just not redundancy of the same thing that we just heard.
Good. No.
What's your name, ma'am?
Amanda Keene.
Amanda Keene.
310 Fort Cherry Road. So first, I would like the board to consider curfews for the roads for Fort Cherry. When I work in West Virginia, all over West Virginia, there's a curfew for when my trucks are allowed on the road. Even whenever I work in some of the counties in Pennsylvania, Oakmont, you brought that up, I'm not allowed on the roads anytime that the kids are in school and that the buses run. And having this off of Fort Cherry Road, you would think that that would be something that is pretty obvious that should have been implemented 20 years ago versus now. I know I brought up the golf course. I know that I saw the drawings for the new pad. That pad is supposed to be built. It was on the plans for this year. So it definitely makes much more sense to have it up there. I also know from doing the due diligence on that property that they have, out of the 9 ponds on the property, 1 of them can be permitted for freshwater use. And then the other thing that I have is just a general plea to the board is I support drilling. I'm a big supporter of it. I love range. I love all of them. But the township, I think, is what's letting us down. And just because we've made past mistakes, it's time that we start thinking 10 steps ahead and not 2 steps back. And if the policies keep coming up that we're constantly fighting as residents, change them. Make them better for us. Make them better for our community. And stop just letting us go back to the same bad habits that were created in the first place.
Is it something
I have
different?
a real short one.
Okay.
Regarding him saying that the school is 3/4 of a mile away from the tank pad, I've lived there my whole life. The edge of the Yonker property line is about 3 acres of a skinny strip until you hit Caleffi Road. And there's a couple lots from Caleffi Road, so it could not be 3/4
Yeah,
of a mile
3/4
away.
would not be accurate
Not
as to the
accurate.
school
It's
property.
a lot closer. I'd have to see the maps on that, but it's not 3/4 of a mile. I just wanted to clarify that for all the residents who are worried about the school.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question, but.
It's a comment.
I think I think you 3 vote on it, and from what he said, I guess maybe you can't say it or not, but he's acting like you don't have a choice to do this or not, because they already had proposed other stuff and you passed it, and there's an ordinance that says you can.
I never said that, sir, and
No,
nothing
this
should be.
gentleman,
Okay, I
I don't
beg your
remember his
pardon.
name.
I certainly, if it, don't want that credited to me.
No,
It's not our position.
This gentleman, in his closing argument, said, basically, we're coming to you, doesn't matter how many people come, we're presenting this to you and you can't deny it. I just wondered, can you deny it, or are you not allowed to answer that? Can they deny it? Because the way he said they presented it, it's already.
Yes, they can.
The board will deliberate upon the decision, and it will lawfully make a determination on, with the advice and help of counsel, on what its rights are and powers are acting on an application of this sort or any sort.
Okay, thank you. And just to.
They kind of sit as a jury after this. They're allowed to deliberate in executive session and all that, and formulate how they want to decide if it is approved, what conditions they would impose on it if they were to approve it, whether they wish to deny it. The basis for that.
Because just listening to his closing argument, it sounded like you don't have a choice. You have to do this just because you have to announce it. But if you don't do it, we're going to sue you anyway. But it doesn't make sense, because I think if you heard a board and you could decide what you want to do. Thank you.
All right, I seen you had your hand up over here again, Mr. Selensky.
All right, I'll just say, basically, you know, a lot of us property owners agreed with the drilling and the fracking in this vicinity. We thought, you know, this is the way it was gonna be, and it could help the economy in the area. They used to say if you gave a farmer $1, it passed through the community a lot of times, and it does. But for somebody to say, I have the law and I'm gonna use it to force you to vote yes. And he said basically the same thing. Lawfully, we'll do the lawful thing. How about we do the right thing?
You had your hand up as well. You good?
Yeah.
State your name again, please.
Cindy Baker, 134 Baker Road. I will personally rent or buy a traffic counter for Walnut Road and Baker Road and Fort Cherry Road if Range can't afford to do that, or if you guys would consider postponing this until we actually have data to prove to you how highly traveled this road is. I'm not just talking truck drivers. I'm talking about how many kids drive to school every day, sporting events. They're all driving. These are teenage drivers, and we know the accident rate is high with teenage drivers. So why would we want to put all this extra traffic and extra stress on our children? So if you want us to rent or buy a traffic counter, my husband and I will do that, because we feel that something needs to be done to get more data. I think Range could afford it too, but I'm offering.
Okay, any other public comments? Going once, twice? Okay. Appreciate everyone remaining pretty calm here. I know it got off to a little rocky start there at the beginning, but I think everybody, got their points of views across to the Board of Supervisors. Range Resources, I think you got your points across too. So, we got a very important decision, after getting back the stenographer's recording from everything that went on here tonight. And, I think we have an obligation within 45 days to make a decision. Whether in favor or against or with conditions, it's all something that we'll have to review, and we'll take all your comments and testimony by heart here. So thank you once again, everybody, for your comments.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing record.
Second? The motion's been moved and second to close the public comment period. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
Let's take a break before we start the next one.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yes, this is all part of
Can Darla get in
Darla, do you have time?
Shane, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
I believe that's, you have to ask, because it falls. Oh, it doesn't. Okay. Kathy, are you doing anything?
You taking a break? I'm taking a little break. I gotta use the facilities in here anyhow.
Shane, are you done with this book?
I'm done with that one. Yes, thank you.
We're gonna get ready for the next hearing.
All right, I got it.
We'll try to be quick on this one.
Thank you for your patience.
Is anybody interested in this?
Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Staff, I just tell you right now,
I've known him for thousands
Thank you.
And your wife, Teresa, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mark.
I got an extension till June.
Carol, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Leah. I'm Rachel. Nice to meet you too.
I'm Laurel. I think we've met before. How you doing? Nice to see you again. Yes. I'm glad to see that. Yeah, I think you're self-trained several different, I think.
Smith Township too. I just submitted a bond permit to you guys, so I just.
Did himself sneak out the door?
The other guys.
Oh, you do the corner. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. Well, you'll probably be running into the,
Yeah, I know I just submitted a permit to you for the front site, so. Well, you guys approved it, I got it.
Already?
Yeah.
Question.
I wanted you to have a face to
Wow.
face.
I'm gonna double check with him.
God bless you on keeping up with all of that. You are more a woman than I am.
I'm sure I'll be running into you again.
Hold on for a minute. I don't have a decision or unless, because I know it can get quite expensive. Hey, love to have it.
What's going on now?
Well, I'll talk to them. If they want, I know I can't do it. Would you have a guest come up, or could you give me a guest come up?
I'm gonna have to look at the next hearing, because we did that.
I beg your pardon. This is a little 10-minute hearing about, this is not an application. This is just a little hearing about, yeah, we should respect it. It'll be good. I beg your pardon. Holy crap. Hey, how are you, sir? Good, good. Hey, thanks. It's the first-class township code that the commissioners do. That's what I have to research. I'm not going to steal that from and they get him hardening. Oh, they're going to run him down. I will just do
You get this other one started as soon as Harry gets his coffee. Yeah, that doesn't mean you talk.
What's that gentleman's name you texted me?
Actually, I'm getting cold.
That's the one, they just give everything approved they're gonna need to do one of them road study, and then they're gonna need police.
I do have an exhibit, these usual administrative exhibits. First would be Exhibit 1, is the actual latest draft ordinance 166 with a Rev 5-12-2025 date on it. Exhibit 2 is a proof of publication along with the legal notices that were published actually 3 times in the OR on March 30th, May 4th, and May 11th regarding this public hearing and the potential enactment of this ordinance, along with notice of a pending ordinance resolution that was adopted by the board. And finally, as Exhibit 3, we have Washington County Planning Commission's comments, largely technical and editing in nature, that they gave to us. And we utilized those to create the final draft of the ordinance. Just by way, if I might, of summary of the ordinance's intention and its content, as you know, there has been happening in the economy, in this region and around the country, emergence of large solar and battery energy system facilities that folks are employing. These are not your accessory use or on your own building for your purposes. These are actually systems that are designed to generate utility level energy that's sold off and transmitted to the grid. We did not reinvent the wheel. We're fortunate and had the help of our township engineer, Keith Strait, from whom we benefited. He also happens to represent Smith Township, Jefferson Township, and other townships in the area that have had experiences with this emerging land use. And we were able to, plagiarism being the greatest form of flattery, we were able to, in consultation with Keith and his experiences in Smith Township, and my own consultations with their experiences over there, and we kind of took they had actually had a couple generations of these ordinances put in place, and we kind of took the best of the best of what we thought from theirs, and with Keith's input and Nicole, his EIT, created an ordinance tailored for Mount Pleasant Township.
Yeah, and I can also add to that a little bit too, Tom. You know, after just attending the State Association Township Supervisor Convention, solar farms and ordinances was probably the #1 topic of discussion across the thousands of townships across the Commonwealth. So this is something not only Mount Pleasant Township is going to be addressing, you know, here, but it's a statewide issue as well. I know I personally drove past up in Cambria County and witnessed the large 1,200 acre solar farm. They cleared off a mountain of treetop, and I was just trying to figure out what it was. So it certainly got everyone's attention across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. And what we wanted to do is, again, if you don't have an ordinance in place, you can get caught with your ordinance pants down, so to speak. So we wanted to we stay ahead of the curve and put some ordinance in place, and certainly on the technical rules as far as the definitions and the requirements, the specific requirements of them. I believe that with Keith's input, they're kind of state of the art. The other issue that arises with these is where, in what zoning districts, aside from the technical regulations, do you wish to allow them? Under, I guess, the theme of baby steps, we in our planning commission recommended this as well, that initially this would call for them to be allowed as a conditional use subject to these definitions and rules, but at the onset only in our industrial district, which we believe is lawful and provides that use and leaves us in a position where we have a defensible, usable ordinance regulating these. Might in the future, the board its own instigation, the planning commission, if it wishes on its own accord to study and recommend same, or if a landowner in future petitions or asks you to look at whether you wish to expand the zoning districts in which this may be allowed to occur, certainly you can consider that in the future. Tonight, I just want to make clear that the ordinance as recommended by the planning commission restricts it, at least kind of out of the gates here, to the I district. With that said, that's kind of a fair summary of the ordinance. They give setbacks, they have requirements with regard to other technical specifications, light, glare, noise, emergency service interactions, decommissioning, and bonding to cover it. That's what, you don't want these things to go away.
And that was absolutely one of the major concerns, was the decommissioning, because let's face it, these solar farms, they're only good for a certain period of time. And then if a company goes belly up and walks out, the township can't be left responsible, and the taxpayers, of that expense of cleaning that up. You know, so that's a very important topic that needs to be covered in this ordinance.
And this proposed ordinance requires 125% of the estimated cost of decommissioning that can be updated every 3 years. And they have to post that security before, as part of their approval process, before they get their permits issued.
And the other thing, just, you know, as well, to comment, was the emergency response to the ordinance, okay, with the local fire departments being trained on those types of battery storage systems as well.
Mm-hmm. For which the applicant would also be responsible for the cost of that, including any necessary cost of training local first responders.
Yeah, and to speak to that battery,
Thanks.
Keith Strait with Redcon Engineering, just to speak to that battery energy storage systems, that is a major concern with fire departments and lithium battery fire. So we weren't allowed to totally rule out battery energy storage systems. However, we prohibited lithium or lithium ions or any hydrogen production type batteries in that system. So
because you know,
which have been the most dangerous ones at
correct.
this point.
That's exactly. So we limit that in this ordinance.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to see if there's any public testimony regarding the ordinance. Anybody in the room, if you have any public testimony and you'd like to comment, now so is that time. Just please state your name for the record and your address to the court stenographer.
Kathy Lodge, 257 Mine Road Drive. I just wanted to comment that, how do I put this? Has the board considered that limiting solar arrays only into the industrial area could limit landowners' ability to use the land in which the way they want to, similarly to how they did with well pads. They were allowed to go anywhere because the landowners wanted to be able to use their land the way they wanted to. So
yeah.
You're saying that solar arrays, not on the house solar panels, but solar arrays, a solar farm, this ordinance is only allowed in the industrial area for conditional use, as I understand.
This specific, yes.
This specific
first
ordinance.
Yeah.
So perhaps adding to this ordinance could be allowing conditional use in other zones, not just in the industrial. So that you open it up in case somebody does and meets the same criteria, setbacks and whatever, but conditional use would also allow neighbors to voice concerns.
Yeah, but I guess what it doesn't do, it doesn't allow it in every zone, which is what we're trying to look at here.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Say that again? It doesn't allow in other zones?
The ordinance in the I zone, it's allowed. Any other zone, you'd have to be a conditional use.
No, it's not allowed. It's only allowed in the I zone as a conditional use. It's absolutely not allowed.
Yes.
And again, the reason for that as I've stated, frankly, we wish to have a lawful ordinance in place not to be challenged for being exclusionary. As many planning folks do, it's often advised to take a cautious or more conservative approach coming out of the gates, so to speak, at the onset. So with this first ordinance, and again, under kind of the theme I said before, baby steps, and it's easier to open a barn door than it is to close one. The thought was to recommend right now to get an ordinance in place that has all the kind of technical specifications on it, but again, the Planning Commission's recommendation was, at least for now, tonight's initial enactment of this ordinance, they were recommending, and this draft does, limit them to the I zone. Certainly could, and as I indicated before, the Planning Commission, the board, instigated by residents or landowners, ask that consideration be given to expanding the palette, amending this ordinance in the future to add, consider adding, for example, a use in the agricultural zone. Other communities, for instance, I know have studied or are studying, for instance, and there is a tension actually, even in the agricultural zone, there's a tension, there is a kind of, I guess, a debate, you could say, between landowners of the sentiment you just expressed of, hey, it's my land, let me do what I wish on it, so to speak, versus whether it's consistent with agricultural use goals and things of that nature. It's kind of a planning debate. You have farmers that disagree with other farmers, rural property owners, on where that line should be. To be conservative, we just took the approach here of coming out of the gates here, and certainly open to considering other amendments in the future. Some communities are studying targeted overlay districts where, for instance, even in the agricultural zone, there's a lot of wasteland, so to speak, that were strip mined. They're really not good for agriculture, but they may be good for that. Some communities are looking at that, or other avenues of limiting, say, the lot coverage, the density in, if you were to allow them, say, in an A zone, as long as it was on a certain maximum percentage of coverage of, their acreage, what that number may be. That's not in this ordinance, could be considered in the future, and again, for the reasons I stated, that's kind of why this particular draft was limited the way it was.
Okay, so to finish off my comments, I would ask the board to consider expanding the ability for solar arrays to be not just limited to industrial, but to other areas by conditional use, so that it can have the review of the public, review of the board, and conditions set if approved. Because perhaps farmers want them and want to graze animals under them, and Keith and I just went to the PSAT's meeting on solar arrays, and sometimes you can't have the animals grazing in the industrial zone, so perhaps in an ag setting is a better design. That's all. I just wanted you to consider amending this to expand it beyond just the industrial zone.
Mary Jo Stansel, 46 Woodland Road, Hickory. I agree with the way you set it up for just industrial, because this area is not very good anyway for solar panels. I mean, Pittsburgh is rated as the fourth cloudiest, gloomiest city. Southwestern Pennsylvania is in that whole category, so we're not really even a good zone for this. But I would definitely, if you want to do this ahead of time, get ahead of the game, like you're planning, then keep it in the industrial zones. And when somebody might want one elsewhere, then they could appeal to you.
Mr. Orton. Oh, I'm sorry.
Part of the reason why what we did was.
What's your name, sir, please?
Bill Orton.
Bill Wharton.
Orton, O-R-T-O-N. Orton. Was comment of people that participated in us going through with this, not waiting for the last minute to want to change something, to see what their input was. We had a few people come, and some people made suggestions, and we tried to work out the best solution we could to benefit the township.
Thank you for your comment there. Are there any other public comments? Is there anything else that you would like to add, board members?
Nope.
Nope.
Well, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing regarding the record of this ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. All right, we're going to take just a couple-minute break to let our court stenographer to gather her information up. So unless she wants to stay for our other meeting and give our manager a note, you're already here, right? partner? Okay.
Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We certainly got our practice saying the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Yes. So, first of all, we need to amend the agenda to add an item to make a motion. It'll be under line item 5 of the agenda, under the departmental reports, to accept the resignation of Wendy Wetzel, a full-time firefighter, or part-time firefighter.
Shane made a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda, amend the agenda.
I second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then we have all the so put Shane second.
Also, before we get started here tonight, I'd like to introduce everybody to Stacy Andronis. Stacy Andronis is our new hired township manager. Okay, and we were just so lucky to have Darla stick around a little bit and give Stacy all the necessary training that she's going to need to become the best manager, to try to live up to Darla's expectations, which I'm sure Darla's going to do a good job of making her be just like Darla's clone.
You might not want all of it.
So welcome, and we're happy to have you. And you got a little bit of experience on probably, that was the busiest night me over 18 years of being a township supervisor, to experience what we experienced tonight. 2 public hearings and now a township board meeting. So this may be the worst you'll ever see in the whole time you're here. Let's hope, huh?
Sounds good.
All right. Are there any public discussions on the agenda to be voted on? Mr. Orton?
That resolution, 2025M for the fee schedule, is that for permits and stuff like that? Is that what that includes?
Yes, I believe so, sir. Based off of Mr. Straight and, our little homework error, we think that those need to be adjusted to catch up with the times of what it's costing to do actual things.
And number 12, the road bond, is that just an application, or did you increase your road value?
No, we didn't. We revised the road bond application. It's still the $12,500 per mile heavy access maintenance agreement, but we tailored some things, such as we wanted pre-construction videoing done by a third party, so that it's all documented. There's been a lot of gray areas lately of whether, they get in there, they do the work, and there wasn't proper documentation. So we just kind of improved that form. That was the whole purpose of that.
Bill, if you would like copies for the planning commission, Stacy can send them to you if you'd like them. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other public comments regarding the
Before you
agenda?
vote on this, can you explain number 17?
That's the accessory photovoltaic.
You wanna comment on
Not
that?
yet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
That is actually, this isn't the large scale solar, this is, it's your residential solar panel kind of ordinance. It's not just residential, but it's when it's an accessory, either on your roof, yard, business roof, when the purpose is actually to serve the site that it's on.
Okay.
Those are called that. And actually what we did, and it's I'll just finish up on that topic right now. And the planning commission recommended, and our fire chief also reviewed and recommended, and we actually, again, plagiarism, greatest form of flattery. In Hampton Township and in North Hills, we worked with a couple communities and the fire marshals, because the kind of model ordinances for even your roof panels, they really didn't take into account what first responders have to do when they come to a site, either shut-offs, emergency signage, and even breakthrough points on the roof. So long story short, even though it's in a zoning ordinance, and has supplemental regulations. It's almost akin to a UCC kind of a specifications ordinance. Tonight, they're only giving us, we're asking for authorization for us to start the review process, to advertise the ordinance and schedule and hold a public hearing and send it to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public discussions regarding the agenda? Mickey?
Number 14. What is that?
That's going to be regarding the bathrooms down at the ball field. So we have an agreement between the youth league and the township.
What is it? What is that?
It's permitting the installation and maintenance of the bathroom facility.
Them.
They are going to maintain it. That's why we're going to have this agreement.
Okay, just I want to make sure.
Any other? Okay. Move on to the minutes from the April 23rd, 2025 super meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd meeting.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded to accept the meeting minutes of April 23rd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Motion to authorize ratify paying the bills and the payroll for the month of May 2025.
I'll second.
The motion's been moved and seconded to pay the bills for the month of May. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. Make a motion to approve the departmental reports. And also add to accept the resignation of part-time firefighter Wendy Wetzel from the Mount Pleasant Township Fire Department. Effective, what was the effective date? I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, Adam, am I?
I think, Adam, I'm pretty sure it was May 9th.
Yeah, it had to be right around there.
Yes, May 9th.
Effective May 9th, 2025.
I'll second it.
The motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
I'll make a motion to authorize to ratify the hiring of James Ritz, Public Works, effective May 12th, 2025.
Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries.
Make a motion to authorize ratify the appointment of Stacy Andreas to serve as a township manager, secretary / treasurer, and open records officer, effective May 12th, 2025, and adopt a resolution number 2025-L regarding the appointment of Stacy Andreas.
Second. The motion. I'm sorry. The motion's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries, and welcome officially.
Yes.
Make a motion to authorize / ratify the appointment of Darla Proch to serve as senior advisor to the administration and board of supervisors, effective May 12th, 2025.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion